Welcome to this RevelX podcast on innovation. This series of podcasts is built on the success of our innovation webinars and playbooks. With these podcasts, starting with the first one, we share the best practices on realizing growth through innovation. And today, we'll dive into the topic of corporate venturing. At RevelX, we partner with companies who are serious about their long-term survival and thus about innovation. And continuous innovation is a source for sustained and sustainable business growth. In this age of continuous challenges and disruption, companies must treat innovation as a core business process and an integral part of their corporate and growth strategies. We share the best practices of innovation champions, and these best practices have been derived from our many years of being active in the field of management consulting, startup and scale-up coaching, and of course, building and executing innovation growth strategies. My name is Matthijs Hosman. I'm a partner at RevelX, and I'm joined by Erik de Groot. Erik is co-founder and partner at RevelX and has over 30 years of experience as a boardroom strategist and business partner to many international business leaders. And within RevelX, Erik is innovation thought leader and expert in the field of corporate venturing. Please join me in my conversation with Erik. Hi, Erik. Good to see you, and welcome to this podcast.
Well, thank you, Matthijs. Good to be here in this new series. I'm really enjoying it. Let's fire away.
Very good. So we're going to have a bit of a fireside chat on corporate innovation. So before we get into more detail, can you explain what corporate venturing entails? Can you provide a definition or a description of corporate venturing?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me make a distinction here. There are two components, I think. One is, of course, to venture. What is it? What is venturing all about? It is undertaking a risky and a daring journey. It's also a course of action. And the second part is that corporate part, of course. And the corporate part is actually the innovation and growth strategy of a company, where it enters into partnerships with innovative organizations in order to co-develop innovative products and services. And in our definition, by the way, we make a distinction here is that we say it is independent of any financial investments, whereas a lot of people in the marketplace say it's always including an investment. We say an investment can be part of it, but it's not a goal in itself.
So it doesn't have to be an acquisition?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So if you want to make that a little bit more tangible, can you give the listeners some examples of corporate venturing?
Sure. There are many options for partnering with start, scale-up, and grown-ups. Which one is right for your organization depends on what you envision for the strategic impact and the engagement intent with that partner. We focus with corporate venturing on what we call challenges, and challenges are somewhere in the middle. We talk then about a serious and considerable strategic impact and an intent where we try to partner for a longer term. Examples for that you find in, let's say, incubators, labs, joint development programs, IP licensing accelerators, and that sort of thing. And recently also known venture client, which is focusing on a sort of a procurement relationship with strategic suppliers that you have. I think, by the way, a very nice example that we find in the Netherlands is a company called Nutreco. It's a global animal nutrition and aqua feed company. And they have a specific department for these kind of investments and partnerships, which they call New Frontiers. And they have been involved in a startup company called Mosamid, which is a spin-out of the Maastricht University. Yeah, heard about that one probably. I think there's also a famous actor that took a financial stake in it as well.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, this is a company which is focused on cellular agriculture. It is creating cultivated meat. You could say a cultivated burger. They first introduced this already in 2013. It is now going into the next phases. And Nutreco is with them for quite some time, helping them co-develop, investing in the company, and very much focused on, which is quite popular nowadays, is lowering the climate impact of agriculture. Independent research shows that over 90% reduction of climate impact is realized through these kind of ventures.
Okay. So in this sense, the goal of the venture is really to speed up the development process of the product. Would you say is that Is that the main objective here?
Acceleration is certainly one of them, but in this case also it is a very strategic intent, because you could argue even for a company like Nutrego that these kind of ventures are disruptive for their own business. So this is actually their new business model.
Okay, so disrupt before being disrupted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. So in the introduction, I talked about the importance of innovation for long-term survival of organizations. Can you explain where corporate venturing sits in the domain of innovation, realizing that innovation itself obviously is a very broad term and a broad definition? And and why do organizations need to focus on corporate venturing in the first place?
Let me make a distinction here where corporate venturing sits in this total of growth plays or methods that you can deploy as a company. Corporate venturing sits next to corporate innovation, which we also call build, which is building on your own and leveraging your own internal innovation capabilities. And it sits also next to what we call buy, which is actually M&A, acquisitions, buying and integrating other companies. Yeah. And venturing is partnering. That is to partner with external parties, not necessarily so a buy, and it's certainly not a build. And it's our belief that in today's world, nobody can do it alone anymore. So you need to partner.
And in this sense, is partnering always between, let's say, a bigger and a smaller company, or can it be two smaller companies or two grown-up companies working together?
Partnering can be with anything. It could be two grown-ups together. It could be you could partner with a startup. You could partner with a scale-up. It just depends on what the real use case is, what your real intent is. Why do you want to partner? And then you find, of course, in the marketplace, the right partner for your goal, for your ambition.
Okay. So in that sense, corporate venturing is, as you explained, different from sort of building your own innovations, sort of leveraging your own capabilities, or pursuing innovative growth strategies through mergers and acquisitions. But how important is corporate venturing relative to these types of growth strategies? So realizing that organizations are typically geared either towards doing it all by themselves, or going out and buying other companies, either through direct stakes or partial acquisitions. How do you see that sort of relative position of corporate venturing in these different types of growth strategies?
Yeah, it's a good question, Matthijs. And there is some dynamics here. If we look at the current practice of today, and our own research and of other renowned institutes shows that only 1/3 of all the organizations actively engage with the outside world. That is not a lot, of course. 1/3, 30% would like to call it. And other research, MIT research that was recently published, shows that it will become, in the next couple of years, the most important source of innovation, next to the two other ones that I just mentioned, like build and buy. And if we have a closer look at the current practice, we see that a lot of the organizations still fail miserably at corporate venturing. Latest research shows that 69% of corporate venturing initiatives do not deliver as promised, or actually really fail. So that is not good.
And what will you describe as a failure?
Well, failures, there are many. There are actually 5 key problems here. Why this fails? And let me go through them just briefly. One is wrong selection. The same research shows that 75% of partnerships with startups and scale-ups fail because of a wrong startup selection. So you've just chosen the wrong girl to marry, or or partner to marry. And it also shows that it's often too much a reactive kind of approach. So corporates should get more out of the building, be more proactive in the field, and look for suitable partners. The second reason is what we call poor embedding. Many venturing programs lack a structured embedding in a corporate innovation strategy. And therefore, it often is just a hobby horse of a certain individual, often a CEO or a CTO. And that results in what we call innovation theater. It lacks fertile ground, you could say, within the corporate environment. A third reason is what we call is the legacy environment of a partner. Partnering is difficult. Why? Because startups have a different pace, have different ways of working often than the corporate has. So the corporate legacy systems, structures, decision-making processes are hindering often a good partnership. It is like two incompatible worlds colliding. Fourth reason is what we call the DIY effect. It is the do-it-yourself overriding culture that you see in a lot of corporates. And that can even become hostile. What we see in, for instance, R&D departments that are actually very afraid or hostile towards external sources. We can do it better. We are better. We can do it ourselves. Why do we need a partner? And the last, and not the least, is, and it's not within the corporate environment, but it's in the whole ecosystem of startups, scale-ups, of partnering. It is a very competitive world outside. And startups and scale-ups have so many options nowadays to choose from to go to their next level of growth. So you really need to step up your act. You really need to prove that you're a suitable partner as a corporate.
Yeah. So it requires a lot from the organization to be successful at corporate venturing, right? So choosing the right partner, creating the right environment for that partner to build their success on, making sure that they are well embedded within the corporate environment. Out of these sort of 5 pitfalls that you just explained, what would you say is the one that you come across most in your practice as being a corporate venturing specialist?
Well, in our practice, we are hindered the most by a DIY. We can talk about structures, processes, and we can improve everything in that matter. But DIY is a real tough one because it's in the hearts and minds, it's in the souls.
It's a cultural aspect.
It's a cultural aspect. Yeah. And changing cultures, well, I don't need to need to explain that. that takes a lot more time. And you actually do not change it over time with a brand new process or even a new scouting process or nice automated tools or whatever.
So it all comes back to that same thing of creating the right culture, and then the rest will follow, right? So okay,
boring, eh?
Boring, predictable, what have you. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. Obviously, when we talk about pitfalls, and there are important strategies for organizations to follow in order to navigate these pitfalls. I'm sure that you can share some insight on how organizations can improve their performance, knowing that 2/3 of those of the companies actually fail miserably, as you just described. How can organizations improve their performance in corporate venturing? What can you share?
Yeah, we actually have found that there are 4 best practices in corporate venturing, also from our own research. One has everything to do with what we call search. And it is very important nowadays to get ahead of everybody else. Not only because it's so competitive, because also the world has become bigger and bigger and bigger and more complex. So you need to step up your act in terms of have a proper search and research everything that is out there and make then the right selection there. The second one is what we call funnel management. And funnel management is needed to have speed in your process. And speed is at the essence, especially when you deal with startups and scale-ups, because they're way quicker than you are, of course, with your legacy systems and procedures, etc. So you need to have your own agile process there as well for quick vetting and qualifying and making the right assessments there. And what really helps here is to have a sort of a standardized workflow in place. We often install this at clients also to bring more automation in that process. And we have actually recently entered a partnership with Q Markets to stimulate this at our clients. Very important here is transparency, collaboration with not only the partners, but also within the corporate environment, and to have it as a continuous process. A third one is what we call alliance management, good alliance management. It's like a marriage. It needs constant work and attention to keep it right. And the fourth one is the business alignment part. You need to be aligned with the corporate. You need to be aligned with the corporate's divisions and its businesses, because it's not only the headquarters that you need to align with. And you need to also align with the other processes for innovation within that corporate. So with the own build process and with the buy process of M&A.
And you just talked about vetting and qualifying, corporate venturing partners. Just knowing from other industries and especially in venturing itself, that is a true art, and being able to vet and qualify a partner and being able to truly assess their value. Do you see that corporates are, in essence, well equipped to do this vetting and qualifying themselves, or does it require a specific trade or a specific set of capabilities of people?
Yes and yes. That will be my answer. I think that corporates are able to do this, but they need to improve their processes to do this. Not only in terms of accelerating the process, but also make it more objective, more data-driven, versus what you could say is the more gut feel kind of approach. So if we meet a partner that we like to marry with, of course, that has nothing to do with data-driven decision making. But in this case, to select the right partner, it is wise to take a step back and to see, is this the right partner for us? Does it have the right qualifications? Does it have the right strategic impact? And are we as an organization also fit for partnering?
Okay. Obviously, this question was leading to something. I'm sure that RevelX has specific propositions for organizations who want to engage in corporate venturing and up their game and improve their performance. What do you offer these organizations? Where do people start? Where do organizations start with?
We offer quite a lot, and we also start with something which is actually very small. That's good innovation practice, isn't it? We sort of start with a minimum viable solution to start discovering, and it's actually a venturing discovery workshop. That's how we called it, in 1 or 2 days, to start discovering where you are. So we pay attention there to the why and the what of corporate venturing. We focus on your own business strategy, the innovation mix we just talked about, and how this fits into your long-term development goals. And next to that, we address the how. And the how starts, of course, with your current innovation practice, but in particular, looking at your your own venturing capabilities. And in order to assess that part, we have developed a sort of corporate venturing readiness assessment. And in that assessment, we actually measure you and stack you up against the 25 best practices in corporate venturing. We try to understand which areas can drive venturing performance and where to improve. So at the end of the workshop, we have clear insights in the specific improvement areas and venturing opportunities, and a prioritization where to start, where the highest payoff is, and have a plan of action.
Okay, and who would be typically involved in one of those workshops?
Oh, that can be actually quite a number of people. But we normally start with, you could say, top management, because if top management, is not supportive of corporate venturing, then we also see often that it has a high failure rate. But it's not only top management, and top management obviously do not have a sufficient time for us, but it's only a 1 or 2 day workshop, of course. We need to have the innovation leads there as well. We need to have business participation. So that mix of, you could say, 3 elements is crucial.
Okay, great. So I think that brings us to the end of this podcast. So thank you, Eric, for taking the time to talk about corporate venturing. And we will follow up this conversation with more practical cases in our next podcasts. In the meantime, we offer our listeners the opportunity to engage in a free, no strings attached 30-minute consultation with you, Eric. And if you are interested in doing that, please send an email to info@revelex.nl and we will contact you as soon as possible. And Eric mentioned the Corporate Venturing Readiness Assessment. The assessment allows you to compare your organization with high performers in corporate venturing. Take the assessment through our website and you will get a free personalized report within 48 hours, which shows where you can improve your corporate venturing game. And if you want to know more about corporate venturing and innovation at large, we have our innovation resources available for you in our fully stocked growth warehouse. The warehouse can be accessed through our website, RevelX.co. Just click on the tab Growth Warehouse, and you will find innovation tools, templates, and access to self-assessments such as the Corporate Venturing Readiness Assessment, and all of our other innovation playbooks, amongst which our Corporate Venturing playbook, which we will publish shortly. In the meantime, thank you for listening to this podcast, and watch this space for more podcasts in the near future.